Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on mastering the STAR method for interviews. I'm Lydia, I'm program manager of the Open Door Initiative, and today we will be diving into a powerful technique to help you excel in your new next job interview. But before we start, I would also like to remind everyone that this session is being recorded, and we will share the recording with those registered. If you would like to ask a question, there will be Q&A session, and then you can use the chat box or a raise hand function. Also, I would like to remind that you have the opportunity to use the live captions. For using this function, you need to use at the bottom 3 dots in the top of the screen. After that, choose language and speech and choose turn on live captions. So the agenda for today is introduction to the STAR method, benefits of using the STAR method, how to construct STAR responses, practice interview dialogues, and Q&A session. So what is the STAR method? The STAR method is a structured approach to answering behavioral interview questions by breaking down your responses into 4 key responses. As you can see, there is 4 letters, S, T, A, R. So S means the situation. This is an introduction to the story where you paint the scene, start by describing the context within which you performed a task or faced a challenge at work. Mention what your role was and how this situation affected to your work. Letter T, task. When you explain the actual task or challenges that you was involved. Letter A, action, when you go into the more specific details of the actions you took and addresses the task or challenge. This should be task that you performed, not your team. So you should always say, I did this, and not we did that. Our result, so you need to share the outcomes of results of your actions, highlighting what you accomplished and learned. A lot of people forget about this step, so this is your opportunity to shine and stand out from the crowd. So what the benefits of the using of this method? I would say, first of all, is clarity, because it helps you deliver clear and concise responses. After that, relevance, because you ensure your answers are focused on the skills and experiences relevant to the job. And the last one, impact. You demonstrate your ability to handle the situation and achieve results. So how to construct the STAR responses? First of all, you need to identify the key competencies. You need to review the job description and identify the skills and experiences the employer is seeking. This will help you predict some of the questions you may be asked during the interview. For example, if one of the key competencies of the job description is project management, it is likely that you will be asked about a time that you had to manage a large project or a situation where you faced tight deadlines on a project and other similar questions. After that, you need to select relevant experiences. You need to choose examples from your past work, volunteer activities, or academic project that highlight some these competencies. Try to select examples that are the most relevant to the role you are applying for. Someone might ask you about when you had to deal with a difficult customer, for example. The first thing that might pop up in the head is a situation when you were working as a waiter in a restaurant, for example. But if you are applying for a digital sales position, for example, you have an example from a role that is more closely aligned to this, then you should consider using the example instead, of course. The structure of your responses. Use the STAR framework to organize your thoughts and provide a detailed yet concise answer. Write it down and practice it a few times before going it for your interview. So now we will role play a job interview to show you examples of how to use the STAR method when answering questions. Let me introduce you my colleague, Talita.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining us today. I will pretend to be interviewer and Talita will be the candidate who applied for the role. We will show examples on how a job interview would go. Talita will answer each question twice. The first time without following the STAR method, and we will have some time to discuss what could be done better. Then we will give you an example using the STAR method, so you will see the difference. So before we start, this is a fake job description that we will base on our mock interview on. As I've said, it's very important to review the job description and to prepare according to the job description. So Talita has applied for this program manager role at XYZ Enterprise. The person selected for this role will oversee all programs related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and corporate social responsibility. The person will be responsible for managing multiple projects at once, leading a team of 5 people, and reporting back to upper management. So let's discuss the beginning of the interview when you need to introduce yourself. You don't have to use the STAR method here, but you should spend a minute or two talking about your key achievements that are relevant for the role. So let's start our role play. So hi, Talita, how are you? Thank you for attending this interview today. So my name is Lydia and I'm a program manager at Open Doors, and today I will be part of the interview panel. Nice to meet you. I would love to hear a little bit about yourself. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Of course. Hi, Lydia. It's lovely to meet you. My name is Talita. I'm originally from Brazil. I am an industrial engineering graduate. I moved to Ireland to study at Trinity and realized I really liked it here, so I ended up moving here permanently a few years ago. Many years ago, because I've been here for 10 years now. And I'm very interested in this role, so I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
You can see that even though Talita's response was very polite, there wasn't much to help the interviewer assess if Talita is qualified for this role or not. When an interviewer asks you to talk about yourself, to introduce yourself, you should focus on the key skills and experience you have make you unique for that role. So we will try again, and Talita will give you a bad example of this time. So Talita, hi, it's great to meet you. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today, Lydia. I'm very happy to be here. As you know, my name is Talita. I have over 10 years of experience working in various fields such as diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, social entrepreneurship, and program management. For the past couple of years, I've been working at a national NGO, and I've been responsible for managing multiple projects at once while leading a small team to deliver very successful results. We always delivered, on average, 20% beyond the predefined goals for each project. And before that, I ran my own business in the assistive technology space. And while doing that, I developed my leadership and project management skills for over 7 years. I'm also a data person. I have a background in engineering, so I'm very well versed in keeping track of KPIs, generating reports based on quantitative and qualitative data, and reporting back to senior management.
Thank you. As you can all see, this was a very different response that Talita gave this time. It was more focused on the key experience and skills that are relevant for this role. The interviewer would immediately connect the dots and understand that Talita is qualified for this role. So moving on the rest of the interview, Talita and I have a couple of questions. Talita, sorry, I have a couple of questions for you. We expect that the interview will be no longer than 20 minutes. So at the end of the interview, if you would like, you can ask a question. If everything clear so far, is everything clear so far? Okay. Could you please describe a time when you had to manage a difficult project?
Yes. So there was one time I had a very difficult project that I had to manage at one of my previous roles. I was involved at implementing a new CRM system in the company that I was working at. And I had very tight deadlines, had multiple tasks to be completed at once. So I was under a lot of pressure from my manager. And just by working with my team, we were able to complete the project way ahead of schedule. My manager was very happy, and we received very positive feedback from everyone.
Okay, so now we will open this up for discussion. And so you can use the chat box function, please, for this purpose. What do you think of the latest answers? What would you change based on the star method? Lita, unfortunately, I cannot see the chat box. I don't know why.
I'll keep an eye on it.
Teams is weird. So
Yeah, no
please,
worries.
can you write in the chat box, what did you think of the latest answer? What would you change based on the star method? I didn't see the chat. Just let you
Okay, we
know
have one.
that I didn't see the chat.
We have one. I think it didn't give great detail. It was rushed.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay.
Anything else? We should be changed to I. Very good. It should have numbers, quantities. Very good.
Now we have a great audience today.
Yes, absolutely.
Very prepared.
Anything else?
Okay, so let's see. So I would say that question was too short. It's not enough details. There
Sorry,
was
Lydia, we
no.
got another one. So didn't
Oh,
give the framework of what methods you use. Good
yes,
as well.
exactly. Thank you. So as I've said, let's conclude that it was too short. It wasn't enough details. It wasn't no context. Talita said we instead of I, and the result was very broad. So let's see. Could you, Talita, please describe a time when you had to manage a difficult project?
Yes, absolutely. So, in my previous role as a program coordinator, my team was tasked with implementing a new CRM system within a very tight deadline. The project was critical as it aimed to improve our customer service operations, and we just had a couple of weeks to do it. As I had more of a technical background compared to my mentees, my teammates, I stepped up and took initiative to ensure that the implementation was seamless. I was tasked specifically with training the team within a very short time frame and with very limited resources. I was responsible for developing and delivering the training to over 40 people and creating a comprehensive guide for the whole company. All of that, like I said, in just 2 weeks. So what I did was I started by developing a detailed project plan. I outlined each phase of the implementation, and then I shared this plan with the whole team and had a kickoff meeting to make sure everyone understood the key milestones and their own responsibilities. I also held daily meetings with the core team to track progress and address any issues immediately as they came up. I also organized intensive training sessions for the team to ensure everyone was comfortable with the new system and created feedback systems so that people could report any issues anonymously. So as a result, we successfully completed the project ahead of schedule, giving us time to adjust the guide based on feedback received before deployment. We received a 95% positive feedback for the training and the guide as well. And the new CRM system resulted in a 20% increase in customer satisfaction and a 15% improvement in response times. So we were all very happy with the result.
Thank you so much for your response. So as you can see, this response was a lot more detailed and followed the STAR method, which made it easier to follow and understand exactly how Talita played a part in the project. So moving on to the next question, Talita, tell me about a time when you had to work with a difficult team member.
Yes. So I had a very difficult situation with a colleague once. He was always late with his deliverables and he didn't really communicate with anyone from the team. So he made it very difficult to understand what was going wrong. So what I did was I had a conversation with him and he told me he was overwhelmed. So I was able to help him manage his workload and he improved a lot. So in the end, it all worked out.
Thank you. But I propose again to open to discussion. So, dear attendees, what do you think about the latest answer? What would you change based on the STAR method?
So while we
Please.
wait for people to comment, there is a question on the chat there.
Okay.
The question is how long an answer should be. Um, do you mind if I take that, Lydia?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, so in general, 2 to 3 minutes is good, but it depends on the how long the conversation is as well. If it's a short interview of like 20 minutes and you know they want to ask you a lot of questions, you know there's a lot to cover, maybe keep them a little bit shorter unless you're prompted to talk about it a bit more. If it's a 45-minute, 60-minute interview, then you have more space to talk a little bit more. I'm not saying go beyond like 5, 7 minutes because that's a lot, but you can play on that time as well. But yeah, in general, I would recommend between 2 and 3 minutes. Lydia, anything to add?
I would say that the most important thing you need to focus on the answers and present the whole situation. Don't forget to explain about situation, task, action, and result. It's not important the how long. It's important what do you open. I mean, what situation are you explaining and how do you present it?
Exactly. Just to give you an idea, when we were preparing this workshop, we, of course, prepared some of the answers in advance. Each of the letters, so S has maybe 2 or 3 lines, then T has 2 or 3 lines. So it's not like a whole page for each answer. And you can do that in advance. You can predict a lot of interview questions beforehand by studying the job description. So when you apply for a role, copy and paste the job description in case it's out of the website after a while and when you get invited to the interview, so that you have that. Go through the key skills, the competencies, the experience that the person is looking for, and think about if I was hiring for this role, what questions would I want to ask? And you can kind of predict a lot of the questions, prepare in advance, write it down, so you have a good idea of what you want to say, and then you can time yourself. If you're going beyond like 3, 4, 5 minutes, maybe have a think about like what is actually important here, what message do I want to get across with this answer. So we are getting some feedback here on my bad response. So someone said, give the context of the program project that the colleague was working on to situate your response, better actionable outcomes as well. Very good. In the previous example, Talita answered about percentage of customer satisfaction. At my point, it is rather risky because next question could be how did you measure it? And considering the cost measurement is rather big process itself, the answer could be tricky. So just to make sure I understand this correctly, so you're saying that if you mention a percentage, the next question can be how you measured it. Definitely don't mention percentages if they're not true. And if you didn't measure them, like you have to know how to answer that question for sure, because it could come up. But you can have a very quick answer. It doesn't have to be a long answer of every single step because it's a follow-up question. It's not, one of the key questions for the interview. So you can just say, like we've surveyed the people who attended the training after 3 months and then again after 6 months, and we were able to assess this. Like it's a very like a one sentence short answer should do here. Lydia, anything to add?
I would say that I would use the percentage when I answer for any question because it will show your competency and you know your scope as professional. What did you do? If you know your percentage or some figures, you know how did you measure it and you can present it. What tools at least did you use for this measurement? And about if it is some internal information of the company, you can say that I cannot say that because it was in my contract that I'm not allowed to say in what way did we measure that.
Yeah,
I cannot
especially
disclose that.
Yeah, especially if it's important for the role. Like in this role, there was like measurement and reporting listed on the job description. So if you're asked about that, take the opportunity to show that you have done this before and that you're good at it. So definitely, especially if it's important for the role, do include, numbers, metrics that were measured, but have an answer prepared in case you're asked about it for sure. So a couple of more messages here. I think again, this one was very short. I think more information about what you did. Use more verbs like I listened, I approached, etc. Very good. The answer consisted only of situation and 10% of task. I did not hear action and result. Very good. When answering the question, tell me about yourself. Okay, so this is a question. Do you have to just tell them about what's relevant to the role or tell them all experience you have regardless of if it's relevant or not? Lydia, do you want to take this?
So the question was when the person is, sorry, I don't see the text. So
No, no worries. I
when
can
you,
I can read it again. So when you're asked about like tell me about yourself, should you go through all of your experience or should you focus on just what's relevant for the role?
So I would say that you shortly have to present yourself as a professional. You need to introduce yourself. You need to say in what industry did you work. You need to say how many years did you work in this industry. After that, some specific targets. If it was, for example, I was a project manager in a in a property agency, for example. So if there was some specific industry. And after that, you need to explain shortly what was your previous responsibilities and to add 3-4 main achievements which should be relevant to the role which you're applying. So it would be my advice.
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend against just giving them like a summary of everything that you've done because that's your CV. So by the time you're invited to a job interview, someone has already seen your CV and they decided that you are someone who could, with that experience, could do this job. Otherwise, they wouldn't be wasting their time with you. Now they want to get to know you to make sure that you actually stand out from the other people who are also qualified. So in here, if you're just listing every work that you've done, every skill that you have, the person is going to be staring at a piece of paper in front of them because they probably have your CV in front of them and be like, I could just read this. So this is an opportunity to say something else and to connect the dots. So connect what is on your CV, your experience with what they're looking for. So I would definitely say focus on what's relevant. And if there isn't that much that's relevant, because it's not always the case that you've been working in the same industry in a similar role. So then you give them a short summary of what you've been doing, and then you focus on transferable skills. So you can literally say, I know that this role is going to need a lot of project management in IT. Even though I haven't done project management in IT before, I have worked in the IT industry and I have done project management in this other industry. So I have the skills like, time management, like project management, and then mention some achievements that you have to kind of back that up and to prove that you actually have this, like you're saying. Again, it's short. If they want, they will ask you more questions about it. So you don't have to like prove everything in that first question. It's more of a introduction of yourself. It's supposed to be a little bit less formal. So don't feel like you have to list everything that you've ever done. That's not that's not the best approach here. So,
Feedback.
yes, I think we don't have any more feedback or questions, so we can move on.
Okay. So, as you said, thank you so much for your answers. Yes, exactly. That Talita's response was too short, no context, didn't specify action taken, and result, how did he improve, and so on. It wasn't exactly understandable. So back to the interview. Now Talita will give a more structured answer to the same question. So Talita, tell me about the time when you had to work with a difficult team member.
Yes, so while I was working at the company Going Far, I was part of a cross-functional team and we were working on a product launch. One of the team members who was crucial to the project was often missing deadlines and wasn't really cooperative with our teammates in our meetings. So my task was really to ensure that the project stayed on track and try to keep a collaborative team environment despite these challenges that were posed by the team member in question. So what I decided to do was to have a one-on-one meeting with this person to understand their perspective and their challenges. And what I discovered was that they were overwhelmed with their workload. They just had a lot to do and they were having a difficult time managing that. So, what I suggested was that we would share some of those tasks among other team members. I, of course, spoke to them before that. I also provided additional support to this person when needed. I also established clearer communication channels and catch-up calls that were more frequent to give this person an opportunity to bring up issues before they became critical, which was happening before. I worked with the person as well to create more realistic deadlines together, so that he felt ownership over it. So he was the one who defined the deadlines, so he felt like, more motivated to achieve those. And as a result, after addressing these issues, the team members' performance improved significantly. The project was completed on time, the product launch was a success, and we achieved a 25% increase in sales in the first quarter.
Thank you. So again, you can see how this answer is better structured and easier to understand. These are just a couple of examples on how powerful the STAR method can be help you to tell the same story in ways that will have a more positive impact on the interviewer.
And just
So
to note something just before we move on, some of these, when you read them or when you listen to them, it seems very obvious, the difference. But when you're in a job interview, you're often quite nervous and anxious. So we've been doing a lot of kind of recruiting lately, not just for us, but for the companies that we work with. And we've sat on interview panels and we see people give those answers that were kind of the bad examples all the time. And I don't think it's because they weren't prepared. It's because when they get there, they're nervous and they kind of forget the details or they don't even remember if they mentioned the details. So if you are someone who gets nervous in job interviews, the key thing that you have to remember is preparation. If you write down those answers beforehand, think about possible questions, write them down, practice. It's going to become a lot more fluent for you to say that and to give that answer that is more detailed. Practice with friends, with family, with whoever you have that could help you. With us, do mock interviews. It's gonna help you relax. Because maybe just listening to this, you're thinking like, this is very obvious. I know this. I know how to do this. But then when you get to the job interview, you get a bit stuck. So my one key advice here would be practice as much as you can. Try to prepare beforehand, especially for an interview for a role that you really want. Spend all the time that you can preparing because it is going to make a big difference. Sorry, Lydia. Go
thank you.
ahead.
But I would like to also say that let's say you'll finish the interview, and when you get the end of the interview, you will likely get asked if you have any questions for the company. This is a great opportunity to learn more about the company and the role, and while showing your interest and motivation. You may ask questions like, what are the next steps in the recruitment process, or what is the timeline of you make decision of this role? And this is absolutely fine and should be asked if you want to know, but they shouldn't be in only question to ask. What do you think would be a good question to ask at the end of the interview? Please, you can use the chat box to let us know. Just how do you think? What are the good questions to ask after the interview? Please use the chat box to share your thoughts.
I'll keep an eye on the chat box, Lydia.
Thank you. Because I can
Any
see your
questions?
presentation and you.
Also, if you've asked a question before in a job interview that you think was good, if you want to share that, take that opportunity now to share that with others. And anything you can think of that would kind of achieve that goal of showing that you're interested in the role and also that you want to learn more about what it's like, kind of put yourself on the shoes of someone who's already doing that role. So we have a couple of questions here. Do you provide any kind of training? Very good. It speaks to kind of further development that you would want. I've always asked about further training. Great. One about the company culture. Great. And what projects are in priority? Very good. Company culture again. Ask about the role, about the team, about the company, and further steps about interview. Good. I think asking them their favorite thing about their jobs, that's a good one. I like that one. What do you expect from me on the first 3 months? Very good. Note some of the known company achievements. Ask what future developments they have planned and how your role will lead into this. Perfect. Very good. Shows you've done your research when you mentioned something that has already happened with that company within that industry, and then try to tie that into how can I contribute with your future plans. So that's ideal. Could you please tell me a day at work? Perfect. How big the team will be? That's great as well. Anything else? How is success measured? That's a good one as well. Okay, I think we can move on, Lydia. If anything
Okay,
else
so
pops up,
let's
I'll read it
see.
to you.
Yeah, let's see. So there are some example questions you can ask at the end of the interview. For example, what are the key challenges someone in the position might face? Can you tell me more about the team I would be working with? Do you have any concerns about my ability to perform this role? Are there any specific skills that you think I would need to develop? Or how will you measure success for the role after 6 months? Or as you have already said, I saw in your recent annual report that your plan is to achieve something. For example, how can the person in this position support you with this goal, and so on. So these questions are great because they show that you clearly understand, or sorry, you clearly interested in this particular role, and that you did your research and you are already thinking about how you would perform if you were get in. They also help you understand any shortcomings and gives you an opportunity to address concerns right there and then. So if there is some question, hope you got a clear understanding of interview process in Ireland and how we have a time for Q&A. So please feel free to ask your question on the chat box.
There is one already, Lydia. The question is, can I ask about the salary structure for the role? Do you want to take it? Do you want me to take it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it? Because
asking about salary, basically.
Oh, okay. So when you get the question about what is your salary expectation, you should before that to do the research of the salaries for this position and to see what is the range. And during this question, you can say that I have done the research and I know that the range of this position is, for example, from 30 to 40. And I would expect this range for this position.
Yeah, I think they were asking more if they can ask about salary at this point. And if you don't mind me jumping in, I think that's absolutely fine. Like at any stage of the recruitment process, you can ask about salary. You just have to be careful not to come across as that's the only. Like good companies, good teams will understand that people care about money. Like it's part of life. You work to get money to pay for other things as well, but they want to see that you're interested in the role. So if you end the interview and the person is like, do you have any questions for us? and you say, yes, what's the salary? It seems like that's the only thing you care about. While if you ask maybe one or two questions before about, how is this actually going to work in the future? How will my success be measured? How can I contribute to this goal of the company if I'm selected for this role? It kind of shows that you're already picturing yourself in this role. And then you can follow up with like something around, and can you share the salary for this position, or is there a bracket, and how does that work? And then they'll likely say yes and share that with you. If they say no and they hide it, I would take that as a red flag. Like, it's if companies are not don't want to share this, it's usually because the salary is low. So, and it's not a nice thing to do. So I would take that as a red flag. Lydia, anything to add?
Mhm.
Great. So there's another suggestion here. What would my typical workday look like? That's good. Then there's a question. I have always been told to say no to these sticky questions, like not getting on with a boss or team member, and then just give an example of what you would do in such a situation, as you can be seen difficult or in a bad light. I disagree with that advice. I think if someone asks specifically about not getting along with like a manager, maybe you shouldn't be like you should never badmouth anyone. So you shouldn't say like this person was horrible, this colleague was awful. Like that's not how you should handle it. But everyone has had difficult colleagues, everyone has had difficult customers at some stage in their life. So I wouldn't I would give a real example. People are expecting a real example of something that happened. And if they ask specifically about your boss, for example, like have you ever had any conflict with your direct manager, you can say no. But I had a difficult situation with a colleague, and I would like would you mind if I shared that and how I handled that? That's a perfect answer. That's not a problem at all. But I wouldn't just give like a fictional example of what you would do in that situation, because that's not usually what people are looking for. Lydia, do you agree?
Yes, but if I had some difficult or conflict situation with my boss, I would present. And if during the interview I get a question, did you have some conflict with your boss? I would say that mm, we had a situation when we discuss some project, for example, and during the situation we had two different points of view, and I would explain what situation did we have, what task did we do, what action was done during the situation, and what result did we get. But I wouldn't focus on negative result, for example.
Yeah.
I would focus on what result as a team or for a company did we get. I would present it in this way.
Yeah, as a manager who's hiring, I would personally, and I think most people would personally not mind if someone has not agreed with their manager before. What I would mind is if you approach that in a way that didn't actually solve the conflict. So if you tell me a story about a time that you disagreed with your manager and then you had a fight and you left the role, I'm not going to hire you because I'm going to think, if I hire you and we disagree, are you just going to leave the company? And that's not what you want. So as long as you can give an example where you're not putting all the blame on the manager or the colleague, you're just saying, look, this is how we were struggling to work together, and this is how we figured out. Maybe we had different ways of working. Maybe I wanted to work more collaborative and the person wanted to work individually. Maybe they were very strict on deadlines and I was not. I wanted to work in a different pace. Whatever it is, like, as long as you can present that in a way that it wasn't because you were being difficult or the other person was being difficult. It was just because there were issues, there were challenges that we tackled those challenges together and the end result was positive, then that's absolutely fine. That's a good example to give. There's another question here about what if you're fortunate enough to not have had any conflict at work. So I think it's very difficult to not have any conflict. Like, even if you think about the smallest thing, like maybe you disagreed with someone on the next step, or something to do. It doesn't have to be something that you got in a fight with someone. Actually, it shouldn't be something that you got in a fight with someone. It should be a small thing that got resolved because you were both adults about it. If you don't have any examples from work, try to think about college or school. If you don't think of any examples from there as well, you can think of your personal life as well, as long as it's kind of relevant, like it can't be about, I had a fight with my friend because we were into the same person. Like it can't be something completely irrelevant to the role. But if it's something that you can show that you applied, because it's the same thing, it's interpersonal skills, either it's at work or at school or in your personal life. If you have a certain challenge with someone, you're going to have to use your interpersonal skills to address that. You're going to have to be an adult about it. You're going to have to be mature. You're going to have to speak to that person, understand their point of view. So as long as you can show that, it doesn't matter if it's a personal example. I would just mention that, look, I can't really think of an example from work right now. Would you mind it if I gave an example that's a little bit old? It's maybe 3 or 4 years old, but it's from when I was doing my undergraduate degree or something like that. That's absolutely fine. Lydia, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say that if you don't have any, if you didn't have any conflict with your colleague, I'm sure that you had some conflict with your clients or your customers. So I would say that you can present another example, like Talita said. But I would say that I didn't have any conflicts with my colleagues, but I can remember the situation when I had a conflict with my client or with my customer or something like that. In any case, it will open you like the person. I mean, what do you do in this situation? What action do you do in this situation? What is your behavior during this situation?
Yeah, what's really important to understand about job interviews is that the questions are not just random questions that the person is asking. Like they want to find out something about you. They want to assess something about you. And I've seen this a lot in job interviews where people respond to questions like they were, you know, chatting with a friend. So someone asked like, why are you interested in this role? And they reply like, ah, because, I'm interested in this industry and I really like it. And I think I would do a great job. Like this is a great answer for your friend who asked you why you applied for that role, but that person wants to know specifically, why this role attracted you, like what from the job description or from the company or from the industry and or from all of those you find interesting and you want that to be a part of your life. And it's the same thing with this question is not because they want, to know about a difficult, they want to know gossip about someone you worked with. It's not about that. It's about how you behaved. It's about how you show those communication, interpersonal skills. So for every question that you get asked in a job interview, I know it's very quick and it's difficult to do this, but maybe after the interview, try doing this because then you're gonna get in the habit. Try to ask yourself, why is this person asking me this question? Some are very obvious. If someone asks you, tell me about a time where you manage a project from beginning to end, they want to know how your project management skills are. But those questions about conflict are about interpersonal skills. Other questions are going to be about some other skills. So you just have to think about, like we always ask a question about values at Open Doors. And a lot of people give very random values to us, which is fine because like it's your own values and you shouldn't lie to us. But you should also include things that are relevant to what we do and our own values, because that's why we're asking. We want to know if there is some sort of alignment between what we want to achieve and what you want to achieve with your life. So it's important to think about, why is this company asking me this? And then try to think of an example that reflects the skills that they're looking for. And I know it's difficult when you're nervous, but try to do that before the interview by predicting interview questions. And after the interview, maybe sit down, write down the questions you were asked because they're going to get asked again by other companies. So if you don't get this one, at least you'll be prepared for the next one.
in Salita, but I would add about a little bit about the preparation. So I would say that you need to think that the preparation for interview and interview at all, it's really important to be a successful candidate for the position. So please, very short, find a quiet room to prepare, really prepare for interview, because even interviewer is preparing for interview. He's preparing the question for you. He's preparing a quiet room. He's preparing his face and his clothes. So please, always think that it's really a serious and important things to be a successful for the position, because even such kind of the noisy in your background or something like that can be one of the reason why they didn't hear something important or something like that.
Yeah, there's usually, because there's so many people applying for jobs at the moment, when you get your job interview, you are competing with other people who are, probably just as qualified as you or even more qualified in some cases. So you have to stand out somehow. And it is that preparation that's going to make a difference. A lot of people are applying for a lot of jobs. They don't think they need to prepare that much. So if you do your research, if you think of interview questions in advance, you write them down, you prepare, you practice with your friends, like you're going to be a lot more confident and you're going to do a lot better. And what Lydia said is true. Like, think about if you're doing an online interview, find a quiet space. If you don't have a quiet space where you live, try to find, like, go to a co-working space, knock on their door and ask. Most of them will say it's fine because, there's no downside to them for you to use a small room for like 20, 30 minutes. So you can ask for favors. You can ask for a friend who lives in a house that's maybe a bit quieter. Like, try to make sure you're in a quiet space, you're wearing something a little bit more formal. Have a glass of water next to you. That really helps with nerves. Like, some of those small things seem small, but they're actually quite big and they can make a big difference. There's a question here on the chat about, well, it's not a question, but they said they have an interview next Thursday. They're kind of nervous because I don't remember the job spec. So email the company and you can ask them for the job description. So just say, hi, I'm looking forward to the interview on Thursday. Would you mind sending me the job description because I can't find it on your website anymore? Thank you so much. This,
I would add that I would like to prepare for this interview as much as I can. So
yeah,
please share with me job description. So why
exactly.
we
Exactly. No one is gonna think this is a bad thing. On the contrary, they're gonna think, great, this person actually is interested. So that's no problem at all. You're welcome. Anything else? There's nothing else on the chat at the moment.
okay. There is nothing else in the chat. I would like to thank Talita for support and
Sorry, there
participants for
is one question
attending.
now. Sorry,
Okay.
Lydia. Are companies allowed to give feedback after an interview? I didn't receive it. Yes, they are. So companies don't have to give you feedback, but you can ask for it. We always give feedback, but a lot of companies don't. So it really depends on the company. If you got your only like CV stage, they're likely not gonna give you any feedback. If you got your interview stage, I would follow up. Like, I would ask, can you please just send me a couple of lines on, the main reasons why I wasn't selected for next stage or for this role. And like, all you can do is try and just say, look, this is really going to help me prepare. And then the person might want to take some time out of their busy day to help you. They should be doing that anyway, but a lot of people don't. There's another question: how often to follow up after the interview? That depends. You can send a follow up on the same day, like just thanking the person. You can wait a day or two for them to kind of think about everything that you said. I usually send it out immediately because I don't want them to forget about me and I don't want them to make a decision without seeing my email first. And an important thing to note about that follow-up email is that it shouldn't just be Hi, thank you so much for your time. I had a lovely time talking to you. Looking forward to hearing back. Goodbye. Like, add something about the interview. Like you can maybe say, when you asked me about X, I replied with Y, but I actually wanted to include that I did this, this, and that. I forgot during the time, and I wanted to add this. Or you can say something about, it was great to meet you. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Like, this particular role really interests me because of this, this, and that. Like, it's an opportunity for you to add something beyond what was said on the interview that you maybe didn't get a chance to say, or just to kind of double down and kind of reiterate what you said before and show that commitment and that motivation for the role. Um, Vanessa said, I didn't receive it, even asking the recruiter. Yes, a lot of people will not give you feedback, and it's just the way it is. It's unfortunate. I would still ask when you apply for future roles, but a lot of people just will ignore you, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately. Is there any point in applying again for the position for which I was not selected and the job was reposted? That's a very particular situation. Like, it's very difficult for me to answer that. I would contact the person maybe who interviewed you or who was your point of contact before, and just say, "Hi, I applied for this, 3 months ago. I noticed the same position was reposted now. I'm still interested in it. I'm wondering if I should apply or not." I think they will be able to give you a better idea. Sometimes it's because they couldn't find anyone, or sometimes it's because someone actually joined the team and left. It's going to depend. It's going to depend on how far you got as well. Like, if you didn't even get invited for the first interview, unless something changed in the past 3 months that you can show them and say, like, look, I've upskilled on this or I gained experience on that, then it's probably not worth it. But if you got to the final stage, by all means apply again, because you got so close and they definitely liked you. So there's no reason why not to apply again. Some companies have rules against this. You might want to check that as well. Like, big companies, like big tech companies, sometimes will only let you apply for roles once a year or something like that. So you have to be careful with that as well. Otherwise, you just spend a bunch of time preparing your application, and then you're just going to get automatically denied for that. How long it normally takes to get an answer if I got the job? It depends on the company. It could be an hour, it could be weeks. So it's difficult to answer. I don't know. Lydia, do you have anything to add here?
I not actually understand what does it mean when
So
I got a
after,
job. When you got a
let's
job on
say,
offer.
yeah, let's say you did an that's what I understood from the question. Let's say you did an interview and they selected you. How long is it going to take for them to let you know that you and send you a job offer?
Okay. It depends on company. Some companies, so what experience I have with my participants? Some of them got the response during the first hour. Some of them got response during the first day. Some of them got response during the 1 2 weeks. It depends. Are you only one candidate for this position, or they are interviewed and other persons as well? So it will depend on that.
Yeah, I agree. It really, like, sometimes people know immediately, like during the interview, they know that they want to hire you. And sometimes they have to discuss it internally. They have to get it approved by their manager or their board.
Yeah.
So, like, it can take a long time as well. So I wouldn't lose hope because you haven't heard in a couple of weeks. But also, maybe like after 2 weeks, if you haven't followed up more than once, I would follow up again, because 2 weeks is kind of a long time if you are, especially if you are towards the end of the, like, when you have like maybe 200 CVs to review, it might take you more than 2 weeks. But if you only interview like 3 or 4 or 5 people and you have to decide, it's probably going to be faster than that. So someone else, Anna, asked, tomorrow I have a final job interview. The HR said it should be pretty informal, but I'm not sure what to expect and how to get ready for it. Could you please assist me here? So I'm not sure if the question is in terms of the formality of it. I would still, like, if you're thinking about like what you wear and things like that, I would still wear something at least semi-formal. Like I wouldn't show up in like shorts and a t-shirt. So wear something semi-formal, like business casual. Um, do your research on the organization. Think about potential questions that they can ask. Think about what was asked before and how they might want to know more about those questions as well. So if you're at the final interview, you already understand more about the role than you did before the first interview. So on that first interview, what questions did they ask? What competencies do you think they were trying to assess on you? Because it's going to be similar this time. Um, yeah, you regardless of the type of interview, if it's formal or informal, doing your research, trying to predict the questions and preparing your answers is always the way to go, I would say. Lydia, anything else?
Yeah, I would agree. And I said, Anna, you need to prepare. Continue to prepare. You need to prepare question for the interview. You need to prepare for answer because obviously there will be some answers. If so, it means that they have some candidates, maybe 5 candidates, and they would like to do some extra interview with them. So it means that it will be continuously questions and answers, and they will try to find through some your explanation of the situation. Are you the same person? Who are they looking for this position? So continue to prepare for their questions.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how formal or informal the interview is. Like they could invite you to go to the beach and have a chat with you. You still need to prepare because they're there to assess you, even if their interview style is informal and it looks more of a chat than a formal interview. It's still an interview. They're still interviewing other people. They're still interested in learning more about you so they can assess if you're going to do the job well. So try, they might be assessing as well if they will be assessing if you fit in well with the team as well. So if they are a bit less formal, relax a bit, try to be, polite but nice and smiley and all of that, because if they are like that, they're looking for someone who's like that as well. So don't, close yourself off and be overly formal in an interview that's informal. We're not saying that at all, but that doesn't mean you don't have to prepare. You're still going to have to give the answers and good, strong answers that show that you understand the role and that you're able to do the role, regardless if you're doing that in a very kind of formal way or in a more informal kind of just having a chat manner. So, yeah, you have to prepare regardless. Does Open Doors do mock interviews? Yes, we do.
I can I can jump in.
Yeah.
So the first of all, this is the webinar is a part of Job Ready program. Who are participants of this program right now in this group? You can contact with me, and I will send further details about how to book the employment expert sessions. Who are not the participants of Job Ready program, you can sign up to our program using our website, www.pathwaytoprogress.ie. You can sign up to our support and get our support in mock interview and CV review and LinkedIn profile review through our sign-up form. Also, we have, as I said, the Job Ready program. It's a program for it's like a training program to prepare you for the job market. It is about navigating the job market. It's about job preparation skills, CV preparation, interview preparation, LinkedIn profile preparation, and so on. So you can also go to our social media, our Instagram or our LinkedIn account, and follow up because we are posting all our events through our social media.
Right. And just a note, if you do a mock interview with us, the same rules apply. You have to prepare in advance. If you get to the mock interview and you're not prepared, we're going to tell you to go away and we're going to schedule another time. Like we have to prepare, we have to spend time preparing for a mock interview as well. So we need you to take the same amount of time or more actually to prepare for that mock interview, prepare your answers, think of questions and treat it as a real job interview. Otherwise, it's going to be just a waste of time for both sides. So it's really important to do that. So there's one final question here, and then we're gonna wrap up because we're it's already 12. So can I give the same examples on the second interview, or do I need different ones? And what if I don't have other examples? So if you don't have other examples, I think you have to give the same ones. That's absolutely fine. If it's the same interview panel, then I would try to avoid giving the same example if you can. It depends on who's interviewing you. Like sometimes, you know, 2 or 3 people will interview you for the first time, and then there will be one of the same on the second panel, but the rest of the panel will be different. And then it's absolutely fine to give the same example. First of all, the person will probably not remember because they're interviewing a lot of people. It's probably been at least a couple of weeks since your first interview, so it's not a problem. You maybe change the story a little bit, add more detail about a specific thing that you did to highlight a certain skill or something like that, and that's absolutely fine. If it's exactly the same panel on the first and second interview, and you have another example, I would choose to give another example. Some questions, people expect you to have lots of examples, like tell me about a project you managed before. If you're a project manager, if you're applying for a project manager role, you have to have more than one example, and then it looks bad if you don't. But if they're asking about a time where you had to deal with a difficult colleague, that might have only happened once, so you can just mention that. You can say, look, I already gave that example in the first interview. Would you mind if I gave it again? Because I don't really have another example about this. Or would you like me to think of an example of outside the workplace or something like that? And then be ready for both answers, basically. Lydia, anything to add?
I would say that first interview, it's usually competency-based interview questions. And the second one, it's usually technical-based question. It's like usually. And the third one, for example, the last one will be to understand. So there is obviously some shortlist of the candidates in the last one, and they need to understand, are you the right person for this position? So the last one will be with some task, I suppose. You will need to prepare some presentation, or you will need to prepare the plan of action of some situation. So I would say that I have never heard that it was the same question for on the second stage, on the third stage of the interview. So that's
Yeah,
my
if they're
opinion.
asking the same question, they should be expecting that you might give the same answer.
Yeah.
If they're asking different questions and the example is the same, then just make sure to focus on what they are looking for with that question. So sometimes the example, like the project that I managed, might be the same one that I had a conflict with a colleague, but just the way you're going to explain that is different depending on what the question was, if that makes sense. So I think we're good to wrap up. I don't think there are any other questions on the chat, Lydia.
Oh, I have the opportunity now to see the chat. Thank you. Okay, I can't see anything else. So thank you. So I would like to say thank you for Tanita for your support, and and all attendees. Oh my God, so much. I cannot see because oh, sorry. Oh my God, sorry. I lost the screen. Oh, it's fine. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this webinar. Talita, thank you so much, and have a lovely day, everyone.
Thank you, Lydia, and thanks everyone for joining. Bye bye.